Welcome back to part two of how many hours did I record? Yeah, this just ain't happening in two parts. So yeah, apparently I have more to talk about than I originally thought. Anywho, now that you have a solid foundation on mastering your DPS rotation on a target dummy, and if you haven't watched that video, go watch it now. You want to take it to raid, and guess what? You just got dunked on. Now, why would you not be? You know your DPS rotation. This should be easy, but there's some things you need to know when taking it to raid. What we're going to be going over in this video is reaction versus proaction rating. Before we get started, I wanted to talk about the biggest cliche rating, and I mean everybody's probably got this speech one way or another, but I'm going to give you it again. The most important thing to bring to raid is a good attitude. Sounds like a common sense thing. People come in with shitty attitudes, and that 100% has a effect on your performance. And if you're spewing all that mess into comms, it affects everybody. Like nobody wants to be around that dude that just complains all the time. At the end of the day, it's a game. It's a form of relaxation for some people, stress relief for others. You need to treat it as such. And I guarantee you, if you don't take the game as seriously and try to come to raid, in a better mood, or leave it all at the door, you'll perform better, you'll enjoy the game more, everybody will be happier. Now that we got that out of the way, what is reaction versus proaction rating? I could give it to you in one simple sentence. You know that one guy, every raid at least has one, that gets a mechanic and just panics. They don't know what to do. They're kind of, that's reactive rating. Not fully understanding the boss mechanics not only hurts your DPS, it hurts all the DPS of the people around you, and it just generally irritates people because you might be stuck with the same mechanic over and over again, and people are frustrated that you just don't get it. Because you have to think about it. Let's say, for example, on one of the fights, there is a mechanic that you have to take it out of a raid stack. But you keep forgetting, and people understand that you keep forgetting. So now they have to adjust their movement in order to deal with somebody who they might not think is competent enough to take out a mechanic, let alone the officers and the raid lead have to be on the lookout and see that you're not doing their job. So they're obviously doing less DPS because of it. It's just a chain reaction, all because of personal responsibility at the end of the day. You should step into these fights knowing what goes on. And worst case, each fight only takes around 30 minutes of video to watch and to understand, all right, this is what I'm going to have to deal with. And then you get a few pulls in, see it, and you should be good to go. And now that doesn't mean that once you watch a video, you see it a few times, you have to get each mechanic. There will be certain mechanics that are hard to do, and that's something where you need to be honest as a raider and say, hey, I am struggling with XYZ. A raid leader will always rather have somebody come out and say, hey, I'm struggling with this mechanic. What should I be doing? If you come to them, most likely they will not snap at you. But if you have to mess it up for like a 2-hour raid, yeah, they're going to be mad. They're going to call you out. They're going to snap at you. Nobody likes that. And then again, that goes back to the whole attitude and mentality. When people are negative, you're not going to perform well. Everybody's seen it. So, what you need to do is take some time, research the fights, and even if, let's say, you get in raid and you don't understand it, you need to ask. Tell them, I don't know what I'm doing. And if your raid can't help you, you could always go to the class discords where people with your class have already done those mechanics, and they'll be able to give you some pointers on what you need to do to get your job done. We're going to be taking a look at the Stone Legion Generals fight to kind of see the visual representation of proactive and reactive rating. We're just going to be going through some of the various mechanics in it, and it's one of the more mechanic heavy fights in the current raid, and it just is a very good example of if you're prepared for things, these mechanics aren't as hard as they'd be if, let's say, you didn't know how they actually work. So we're going to start in phase 1, Grishals in the air, calls down on the ground. And the most important thing in this phase is the Wicked Blades. The Wicked Blades will go out to these locations generally. And if your group isn't running like the locations, well, it should be painfully obvious once a Wicked Blade goes through your entire raid that you should have preset locations for it. But with preset locations, that means that there is a no-no zone that no DPS, range, healer, tank should be in, or else they are getting hit by the blade when it goes through. And of course, I'd delete it. So this is a general area where you don't want to be at, and there should be no reason that you are out here. Let's color that so it's a nice no-no zone. This is especially important for the melee DPS who always want the back of the boss, which it's still surprising. A lot of melee DPS don't realize that the parry cone for the front of the boss looks something like that. So you could get pretty close to the front of the boss and still not get parried without having to worry about it. You don't need to be directly behind the boss. That's just never been a thing. That's not a thing. You are fine at the side of the boss. So melee in particular, again, with this fight, need to have their cameras turned to both of these markers. That way, let's say one of the range classes or somebody goes out and they can't quite make it, but they're able to separate for the Wicked Blades. You are able to see that, all right, the Wicked Blades are not lined up, and then adjust and move out of the Wicked Blade path. That is the most important thing for you in this phase, is to be aware where the Wicked Blades go out. You know they're supposed to be here, but sometimes they don't make it out to there. The other important thing is to pre-plan your movement so you make it there. All these classes have something in their toolkit that will get them to this area faster. And even if you are one of these slower classes like Death Knights or Priests, what you want to do is, instead of being all the way over here, I'm safe over here, but now you have this long distance to try to make it over there. And without a gateway, that just is not happening. So your slower classes, you want to be as close to this no-no area as you can without actually being hit. That way you could just get there immediately. And if you have a lock, utilize the lock to the full potential and use your gateways. You'll be able to hit the gateway, and then go where you need to go. The other thing that is out in this phase is the Stonebreaker combo. And when you get targeted with Stonebreaker combo, it's important to realize that it is a combo. So you'll have the first part of the combo. Let's say this person gets targeted. What you want to do is position it so you're not yes, you want to soak, but not everybody wants to soak the initial soak. So what happens is you have the first part of the combo, you get targeted, and then Crystallize happens, which stuns everybody and removes the bleeds. And then the meteor happens, and that's when the soak happens. So what you want to do, no matter where you're at, is try to position this circle to where it's not over everybody, but it's relatively close to people. Which, the tighter your stacks are, the easier it is to do this. The more spread out, the harder it is to do this. But everybody should be aware that this person is going to a location, and make sure to root. I know if you are in this position and you don't want to hit everybody, but you still want to put the circle in the position where it's good, you don't want to just constantly move. That's not what you want to do. You want to make a quick decision, make short distance to create a little bit of space, and then everybody else can react to it. And then those with a bleed could step in and get crystallized, and then the entire group could soak afterwards. So anything like that, you want to make sure that, one, you know when it comes out, you react instantly, and that's with any mechanic, and you don't want to overreact. That is also another common thing with raiders, is overreacting and just taking this out in like no man's land. Now you want to take a few steps, separate yourself, prepare, let everybody prepare for the mechanic. All right, so that's pretty much everything for the first phase. Let's have our phase switch where Grishal comes down to the bottom. And now we have to deal with reverberating eruptions. So reverberating eruptions usually go along this edge here. And what you want to do as a raid again is you want to position yourself so you guys are near where it needs to go. So everybody moves over, and triangle is usually the first one. So you don't want to be on triangle, you want to be near triangle. That way when you get targeted with the reverberation, say this player gets targeted with it, you're close enough that you could get over to it. Again, if you're in no man's land, that is not good. You're going to hurt your raid by not being a, like, even if you have all your movement abilities, getting over here is going to be hard. That's why you want to be close to where the first one's at, but not directly on it. Because if you're directly on it, let's say the full group's on it, somebody gets targeted, yes, they don't have to move, but now instead of one person having to move for the mechanic, everybody has to move and get out of that. And all it takes is one or two people to forget, and then all of a sudden you have a bunch of people with the debuff. So you get close to the marker, and then when you get targeted with it, you come out, drop it, and then stay outside of the marker again. That way when your next one goes out and you have diamond go out, they're able to go over there and drop off the circle. If I could get it out. So they drop off their circle over there. Now you're close enough to where you're not inside diamond, but you're close enough where somebody could soak this. And then when the next one comes out and gets dropped off, your raid is close enough, spread out along this little semicircle to where it's a step to step in it. Versus if you have, like, if your raid's all out here, like all spread out, now you have to go that far distance. You just don't want to do that. So you always want to pre-plan what your movement is, and the less movement that you actually have to do, the better DPS that you do. Another thing to note in this phase is the upheavals. Something that you may have noticed is when you get upheaval, let's say this person has upheaval, and let's toss an upheaval out here. And change the color of this to anything, doesn't matter. If this person gets an upheaval, with upheaval, how it works is it will target your area, and then when you go to step out, a few seconds later, it will hit and then target your next area. So what you could do, if you are smart about it, is when you get targeted with upheaval, you could step out, it targets you, you could step back, it targets you, and it bounces back and forth. That's if you're isolated and you're not, like, if everybody is on the same page. The other thing that you can do is just make sure that you, like, as a group, if you're all stacked and upheaval goes out, the people that don't have it will step to the left, and the people that do have it will step to the right and move as a group. So they'll all step to the right. This zone gets targeted. They'll go around again. Gets targeted, and they'll go around again. It gets targeted. Which again, if you guys are all on the same page, and this goes by a per raid, I guess, personal responsibility. Once you start to get this far out, it's okay to come back. Start to come back. That way you're minimizing this movement after the upheaval, because these people are already safe. They're out of the upheaval. You shouldn't be taking it over here. You have this general area to play with. So you could take your upheaval so it'll hit, it'll hit, it'll hit, it'll hit, it'll hit, and you kind of just circle it around. So you're close to where the reverberations are, and you're not going over near this area where the wicked blades are coming out and they're hitting. So it's all about understanding your mechanics and pre-planning your movement, so you're able to, one, minimize your movement, two, maximize your chances of getting to a mechanic and dealing with the mechanic. It's better to get to it early and then keep on DPSing than it is to get to it late and then, risk a screw up. And then just general overall awareness of where everybody's at in the raid. And that is what proactive and reactive raiding is.